Hello, everyone. My name is Jimmy Zamora, and I'm a student of UAT. Today, I'll be diving into alternative environments project, where we're going to dive into some of the concept of how to better a particular project or nitpick a little bit of the broken, you know, uh, elements that might need enhance for this particular project. So, one thing that I've been playing around with the idea is, the navigation portion of a particular game and then also the combination of VR. So what I mean by that is I noticed that a lot of people complain about, motion sickness, and especially VR games. And some of the things that I kind of come across is the VR games are not long, they're not very long story modes for that particular purpose. Where, if you're in VR, you definitely, get exhausted, your eyes get exhausted, maybe some motion sickness. And I've seen some games that have come out where it's a little bit of mix between a first person shooter and then literally, they enter somewhat of a trigger and then boom, it just turns into VR. So that way it's a lot easier to navigate instead of being in first person shooter VR all the time. You see that third person from above. They navigate the world, and then for example, if you encounter a fight, then you go into like boom, like boxing mode, and then they obviously go into fighting. I think that concept is very cool. I think that concept could potentially take off. I've seen formats of like Contra, for example, the game in Contra and Atari and Super Nintendo, where like it's really like very 2D-ish environment, and then literally if you encounter like a fight, once again, boom, it turns into a VR game, and now you're just full effect. So now they're recreating old school games and it mixing with VR. I think that's pretty interesting from a gaming aspect. So somewhat of on some future projects, I would like to integrate that. But this concept right here that I have in Unreal Engine, I've been trying to somewhat tweak and enhance, certain things of it. One of the biggest things that I've noticed is, and this is one of the levels that I've been working on for final. As you can see, it's very slow, and it really kind of comes down to the frames per second. You probably see the player dropping fairly slow on this particular platform. And the reason being is because the frames per second is at a level that it shouldn't be. So in this video, I'll show you how we go ahead and better that. So the way you do that here in Unreal Engine is you actually go into the main settings of the project, which you actually go to edit and you go to project settings. And in project settings, you're going to see somewhat of the level that you're working on. And then from here, under the engine, you're going to go ahead and go into engine settings. And then from engine settings, you're going to want to change to fix the rate frame per second. So obviously, just to either, adjust depending on the console that you're working with. Like if you have, if you're catering to a particular market where, for example, the Oculus 2 right now can run 90 frames per second megahertz. So it actually allows you to run very heavy content, and but some won't. Or if you just maybe perhaps want to export it or have somewhat of a mix of a mobile cell phone and also VR, which is becoming very famous. Where you have a user that is in VR and then it gets to extreme, somewhat like Chromecast or like cast to your cell phone, and the users can see what you're doing and also interact. You want to be mindful of the type of frames per second that you're working with and also the console. So here we're going to change it to somewhat maybe like 50 frames per second. Hopefully that would help us, somewhat enhance it. So let me go ahead and save. So hopefully if I play, boom, it's a little more, a lot more smoother, to run around the world, right? So, this is actually something that I've been working for my final as far as, having that mix, concept where you have somewhat of a third person shooter mentality, and then hopefully, you can at some point in certain triggers go into, somewhat of a VR world. So that's definitely important when working with VR. Um, Sorry, I actually have been working on a small level that I've been working on, using very of the some of the concept from other classes as well, where how to guide certain users, how to obviously walk them through their storyline. and that's something that I've been implemented in this particular project. But once again, like I said, we wanted to make sure that the frames per second was accurate. Another thing that you want to make sure that you do is obviously when you're exporting or just using the platform that you're working on. I've done a lot of research, and recently I've seen that working for PC versus an Android format when you're starting your project could really dictate the direction of the platform you're working on. So right now I'm working on Unreal Engine, and obviously Unity has certain formats that allows you kind of somewhat of a better, I would say, logistics. It's very depending on the platform that you're using, depending if you're using Quest 2, or even other vibes, I think it's important to pick your poison. Um, we've talked about, obviously when you're exporting or how to test it, obviously if you had a VR, headset plugged in right here, you'll be able to export it and see, obviously what it looks like. And I think that's important when you're troubleshooting, or you're debugging certain things. Obviously you want to make sure that you're working on the right platform, and obviously, lean a little bit on certain um, platforms that allow you to program things better as well. So, as you can see, like I said, we addressed the frame per second. Some of the things that I wanted to kind of create in this particular level is somewhat of a suspense. So, we got a lot of third party content coming in from other sources like Epic, and I'm starting to work on somewhat of a VR integration in this particular level. So um, things that you can lean on is obviously things like StreamVR, or even Epic Unreal Engine, Epic, where you can start downloading, somewhat of content into your platform, and being able to kind of somewhat showcase that. So obviously, when troubleshooting or even testing your particular, platform that you're working on, I think it's important to recognize this type of not only browsers but galleries that we have here. I know that I've been able to go into the store and really download some of the VR content that we have available for obviously when you're working on a project. Marketplace has been very useful, and like I said, I've noticed that ever since the Oculus 2 launch, there has been a lot of updates and a lot of things that are coming out just for the Quest 2, and how to format, so your project, starts, obviously working properly. And one of the biggest things that they've mentioned is obviously working on Unity and Android. So as you can see here, you can definitely buy already, like gloves and whatnot, that would allow you to somewhat have some of a preloaded uh, s- skins catalogs for your game, and then obviously kind of go from there. I think you will quickly realize that a lot of this stuff is pre-done. But like I said, making sure that you understand the platform you're working on. I've noticed a lot of the tutorials and a lot of the communication is just coming out, for Quest 2, which is kind of some of the things of the platform that I want to work on. So yeah, that's technically some of the things that I've been working on, some of the resources that I'm able to kind of somewhat provide to you guys uh, into this working level that I'm working on to integrate some of the VR, hopefully. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, and obviously stay